Evening and welcome to the regularly scheduled Zoning Board of Appeals meeting in Plymouth, Massachusetts on July 15th, 2024. Tonight we have a couple of cases and a bunch of administrative duties to perform, and we'll try and get through them as quick as possible. But before that happens, I want to congratulate Ed for being reappointed. We now know that he'll be here for another 3 years, and Michael also, but he is suffering COVID this evening, so we're down one member. At any rate, we're going to try and get through this whole thing quickly, and the first case we're going to discuss is case 4123, Conrealty Group 3 Incorporated, and all they're doing is asking for a continuance to another meeting. I was not present at the last one, but I can vote on a continuance, and that's all we're going to be addressing this evening. Do I have a motion?
Second.
All those in favor? Okay. Denise, what is the date for the continuance?
They requested the 19th.
Yeah, I know, but
That's good. That means they get it.
August 19th was requested.
August 19th.
Yes.
this hearing will be continued until August 19th at 7 p.m. There will be no more notifications or publications about this particular case. Thank you. Moving on, to new business. Thorndike Realty, case number 3284, and we also have town council here to address some of the questions, if there are any, and I will turn this over to sir. Is that microphone on?
Oh, there we go, green light. Okay, hopefully that's better. For the record, Peter Freeman, Freeman Law Group in Yarmouthport, representing the applicant, and the principal of the applicant, Thorndike, and the new LLC is here, Lloyd Geisinger. So we're here for two very simple things. The first is, as per the original comprehensive permit, there is a condition that says that a transfer of the permit shall be approved by the ZBA. So we sent in a letter requesting that approval. Because it's a condition that already exists in the permit, we don't consider that a change, but we are here with Mr. Geisinger and the information we provided to ask for your approval of the transfer of the permit. And also, earlier today, we made sure we had an authorization from the existing permit holder, Sawmill Development Corporation, that both authorized the transfer and also authorized Thorndike and also myself, representing Thorndike, to be here before you to make these requests. So that's the first one, which is very simple. Sure.
Could I stop you for just a second?
Sure.
I am very sorry, but I have neglected to seat anybody on this case. And
Oh, okay.
probably should do that. And seated on this case, Mr. Conroy, Mr. O'Reilly, Mr. Wallace, and our Dean, Aeronautical Engineer, Mr. Connor. Go ahead.
All
and
right.
myself.
Thank you very much. So that's really it on the request for approval of the transfer. You're familiar with Thorndike through an earlier meeting we had related to the project, but this one is the specific request as per the comprehensive permit condition. So after I mention briefly the second thing, certainly if you have questions, either Lloyd Geisinger or myself can answer. The second thing that we did by way of information, so we don't believe it's a change that actually needs approval, if you believe anything needs approval as a change, I cited the regulations about insubstantial changes under the 40B regulations, because we certainly think that these would be insubstantial. So we submitted a copy of the A&R plan, and what we have done is there's no change to the size of the project, no change to the perimeter, no change to anything that's going on. It's simply for the facilitation of the transfer that will happen upon the closing of the remaining property that's not built yet to Alden's Reach LLC. They created a new lot lines with different lots than the way it had been made up previously. So there's no substantive change, but we felt that it was proper to tell you about it, and assuming that, you approve it, which we don't see why it wouldn't be because there's no changes to the substance, as I said, that's the second request that we have tonight. So that's really it, and happy to answer questions.
Jim, yes, please, Peter.
It's probably none of my business. Why do you change it to a different company? It's curious,
Sure,
of curiosity
sure.
more than anything.
Well, that's a business thing, really. It's a different entity. Thorndike is an experienced developer, including several
Right.
40Bs, and we provided that information. They've created Alden's Reach LLC, which is, as is typically done for real estate development, including 40B projects. It's a single-purpose LLC that will develop the rest of the project. So the present permit holder and the entity that did build the first phase, they're basically not going to be involved anymore, so it's a new business entity.
Okay. One more, if I may.
Yes, please.
You mentioned an A&R, I think, which, when I read your letter, it just caught my surprise, having been on numerous 40Bs. I've never seen that mentioned before, so I guess I'd ask maybe our attorney to, after your response, to comment on that.
Sure, I have no problem with that. For your edification, I believe that's it up on the screen. But as I said, the sole purpose is not changing anything substantively. It's just that the project as approved included the entire perimeter, which still exists, but it also included a portion of the property that is now already developed. So naturally, because that's already developed, and in fact is, owned by the condominium owners who have bought the properties from Sawmill Development Corporation over the years, we're not taking title to that property. So that's the reason for the new lot configuration. And there are the approvals from the existing owners and all of that, that's all taken care of. But in terms of permitting, the reason to do it is, as I explained, to facilitate the transfer.
Carolyn, could you respond to that, please?
Let's try that again. That sounds better. Certainly, Mr. Chair. As you know, and it may be one of the reasons why it seems a little unfamiliar to the board, because in the context of a 40B, the Zoning Board of Appeals acts in place of all local boards for any local permits. But when it comes to things having to do with state law, typically you have to go through the boards that have the authority to administer that state law, like you go to the Board of Health for Title V. You go to the Conservation Commission for matters arising under the Wetlands Protection Act. When it comes to subdivisions and A&Rs, there's kind of been a little bit of a split of opinion as to whether or not that is the type of a local approval that a zoning board can give in the context of a 40B, or whether it should go to the planning board, which would be its natural approving authority if we were not in the context of a 40B. I can tell you that the Housing Appeals Committee has taken the position that the zoning board can endorse an A&R plan or a subdivision plan in the context of a 40B. And just about 2 months ago, we finally got a Superior Court decision in a Middleborough case that affirms that action. So that's not to say that you couldn't still go to the planning board, especially since, in this case, they didn't have anything active and open before you at the time, but they could have presented this A&R to you in the overall context of a 40B permit, and the ZBA could have endorsed it, in my opinion.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I appreciate the response, and I agree, but if I wasn't clear, and I'm not sure if you can see the signature, but this plan has already been endorsed by the planning board as an approval not required plan. We just thought it was easier because it was so straightforward.
Mm-hmm. Okay, any other questions? Yes, Mr. Wallace.
During the initial presentations on this, there was a great deal of discussion by Mr. Geisinger with the neighbors, a great many commitments made. I believe some were incorporated, were written, and some may have been verbal. Is it the intention of Thorndike slash this group to continue with those kinds of, Alden, can continue with those promises made?
I'll let Lloyd answer for himself.
The short answer is yes. Just to keep this brief, we have been in ongoing discussions, which have been very fruitful with the Shallow Pond Estates folks. We have, I believe, reached agreement with the group on a significantly more robust improvement plan to Kathleen Drive, as well as other improvements. The Shallow Pond trustees sent out a questionnaire, a survey, I should say, of all of their homeowners. Once we had presenting to them the plan that involves speed bumps, it involves new striping, it involves obviously top coating of the road, stop signs. We hired a traffic engineer who went through a study and came up with recommendations. We just, as a matter of fact, last week received the results of that survey. And so, yes, we are following through. And at those meetings earlier in the year, I believe I represented that when we were back before this board for the remainder of the modifications that we have in mind that we had presented at the time. In other words, outside of this mini Phase 2A of 18 units that the board approved earlier in the year, that those modifications would be part of that submission to the board, which we recognize will be a major modification for the board's consideration, and that will be part of it. We have also, at this point, completed the process with the Sawmill Condominium Association, Phase 1, as it's called, which includes 60 homes. More than 80% of the homeowners there voted to support the modification that allows us to go forward with the remainder of the project, as well as signing on to a homeowners association that will result in the two associations working together.
Have these been memorialized in some form?
Totally. Everything is signed. We had to go around to each individual homeowner to get signatures on the votes that were necessary. The Shallow Pond work is still in process, so we don't have a final, but it will be part of, we will not submit to this board with the revised package until we've reached some consensus with the Shallow Pond Estates folks.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions, Mr. Geisinger. We're back to the affordable units. We've talked about this before, and there was 10 units that are in flux, sort of. There's a little over $1 million in funds versus those 10 units, and I kind of want to know what you want to do with those.
Fair question. We're trying to get to a point where we can actually close on the property, which is scheduled for 2 weeks from now. At this point, we are under contract to purchase the property, but we do not own the property because we need this board's approval of the transfer. Those questions, that question, and all of the others that came up will be part of the package that we file with you. So we recognize that obligation. We have some thoughts on how we'd like to address it, but we fully understand that as of now, that money will be due unless we can come to some other accommodation, which we may.
Yeah, I believe that there's some of it due starting your next phase.
Well, actually, this board approved that the first to allow us to move forward with this larger proposed modification, the board approved that the next payments would be due prior to the first occupancies in that next phase.
Yes.
As opposed to the
As a matter of
building
fact, I
permit.
do kind of remember that.
Yes.
Okay, so the $1.1 million, I think it
I think
was,
that's
or
correct.
$1.2 million,
I think it's $1.1 million.
or 10 units So when you go to a closing and that's hanging in the air, how do you address that?
Well, the permit was modified so that it expressly requires these payments. There's no option on our part to either build the units or make the payments. Prior to our getting involved, this board modified the comprehensive permit to require those payments. So we're still obligated to make those payments. It's just that the next one isn't due until, well, you'll get it prior to any units being conveyed, because it has to be paid prior to the first occupancy permit.
Okay, okay. That was my big concern, and
Yep.
my second concern, and it's been everybody's concern, is water. And as long as we have engineering reports that say that this is a feasible situation with the water mains the size they are and everything, then I'm okay.
We understand that this will have to go through a complete peer review, that this is not a minor modification where we're just going to be taking a look at a few things. We fully recognize that the modification that we presented to you last time and we'll be submitting to this board will require a full peer review. So we're not expecting to be in and out of here in one meeting.
Okay, okay. Anything else? In fairness to the residents of Kathleen Drive and the whole area, I'm going to open this to public comment, but I'm going to keep it very short. Is there anyone who would like to speak? Yes, sir. Yes, please come to the microphone and identify yourself.
Tim Shawbrook, 21 Kathleen Drive. My one concern is really dealing with the road and doing the finished top coat. I still think the comprehensive permit is grossly underfunded. I do construction, so I kind of know that $200,000 is probably not going to do Kathleen Drive. That's more like $1 million. So that's my one concern, and I'm just voicing it here.
We're aware of that, and that's being worked on. Mr. Geisinger has to come up with an answer for that one, too, pretty soon. Anybody? Yes, sir. Mr. Joseph, keep it very, very short. I saw you sent a letter. I have not read it because we just don't have time.
John Joseph, 65 Kathleen Drive. I'd just like to build on what Tim said. If you read the wording of the permit, that our road is going to receive a 2-inch top coat at completion of the project. And I consider that poor wording in that completion of the project, if this developer goes bankrupt, as Sawmill Development Corp. Probably would have, the project would have never been completed. So I'd like to see that terminology change such that the road is top-coated, and I'd throw out a reasonable number, at 80% completion, while the developer's still on site and has not left the scene. Secondly, you didn't read the letter, but for years, the water department in this town, and if you just read the last paragraph on the second page, said it will require adequate system testing of the water supply, just as Tewksbury did, and Tewksbury required the developer to put in a booster station, identical 40B, high density at the end of a 3/4 of a mile private road, et cetera. So what I see after watching this project for 20 years is an effort by the town to squeeze through this thing as quickly as possible without holding any developer or any town department accountable for the commitments they made. So I would ask you, take a moment right now and read that letter and ask, why are we not seeing the results of these dynamic modeling tests and the other due diligence required?
Anything else, Mr. Jones?
That's enough for now.
Okay. Is there anyone else? Yes, please. Yes. Let's not fight, boys.
John Kelly, 61 Shallow Pond Lane. I'm also the president of the Homeowners Association for Shallow Pond Estates. And the first thing I'd like to say is working with the folks from Thorndike, they've been very, very good to work with, very, very good to work with. I've got several concerns, and one of the concerns is I've got a lot of people on Donna Drive that have major concerns about speeding, but the main concern is Donna Drive is a mess as far as potholes. It is nothing but a series of patches after patches after patches. I don't know what we could do to fix that. I don't think it's fair to ask Thorndike to repave Donna Drive. I don't know what we can do to get help from the town to try to fix a problem like that. If at the completion of this project, Donna Drive, which used to be the entrance to Shallow Pond Estates, is going to get more and more traffic. And it's just going to be a mess. It's going to be a mess. Another thing that I have a major, major concern about, and Mr. Maine, you and I had a long conversation in the last meeting about water main breaks in Shallow Pond Estates. I sat down with the Director of Public Works and had a meeting with him, and I asked him directly, if there was a water main break in Shallow Pond Estates, would the town fix it? And he answered me directly, and the answer is no.
Yep. I got an education about that. I live on a road where the town paid to put water mains in, but little did I know it goes back to a contaminated well and a super fund and all of that, so the town was responsible. That's why I had originally said, yes, the town has to fix it. No, they don't. It's, until the road is accepted, the town has no responsibility. It's up to the homeowners or the people that live on the road, unfortunately. I'm sorry. Shut up.
Me? Me?
No, that. Jeez.
How do we get help getting our roads accepted? With all the wear and tear, with the construction going on, with 232 units being delivered, our roads have been beat to hell.
Yep.
It's not fair for the residents of Shallow Pond Estates.
And
We need help.
And we are in, this whole board is sympathetic to your plight, believe me, but we have no authority to do anything about it.
I'm asking how we can get help.
I,
You want me to try?
yeah,
You want to?
I'm not an attorney, so you have to take everything I say as a grain of salt.
Yes, sir?
Thank you. The process to have a road accepted has to be accepted by the action of town meeting. There are two ways to do it. Have a board, have somebody do the planning board would be logical, but the way it is normally done is you would have a petitioned article. You get the correct number of signatures, you'd retain counsel, you would have a petitioned article to the town asking the town to accept the road. It's been done before. But clearly, town meeting will ask you some very, very tough questions. And one of those is, why should they pay for it? Because there are a great number of roads in Plymouth that are private roads. And so it's not an easy job. But it's the only recourse that you have at this moment. And that is a petitioned article going to the town meeting, a number of meetings to get there, asking them and having your facts, having your figures, having your taxes, what you do, the share you're making, the number of children in the schools. It's a cost item, it's an expense item, and town meeting will examine it very carefully, and you'll go through the steps, whether that's through FinCom, planning board, recommendations, and then finally ending up on a town meeting. That's the way to get the road accepted.
And if I could add one more thing. I remember as a former town meeting member, I believe there's a certain percentage of people who live on that street that have to agree to have that accepted as a town road. So that's just one other thing to consider as you go through the process. But it can be done. But as Mr. Wallace says, it's a time-consuming process, but it can be done.
Mr. Geisinger might be able to shed a little light on how long it takes. Because but I will tell you that the town told us in 1972 that they would be down to put water mains in and pave the roads in 1972, and they got them done in 2021. Start your work. Yes, sir.
I've been a member of town meeting since 2009, and usually 10 to 15 roads per year per town meeting gets approved. So, and it's not that bad. Just get to work and you'll get it done. And I've never seen a road that hasn't been approved at one.
If we have problems, is there a way of contacting any of you guys for questions?
So this will go through the town. It's not through the zoning board. You got to talk to the building department, I believe.
Yeah, it goes to the building. We're out of the loop.
So we're the
I
zoning board.
meant just to, if we had a question, just for help, just for additional help.
Yeah, your town meeting precinct people, they're the ones to really get involved in this, your town meeting members.
So first talk to the building department and then go to your precinct chair.
Okay, we have to move along.
Thank you.
All righty, is there anyone else? Yes, sir?
My name is Leon Rabideau, 134 Kathleen. Just kind of a quick question. Our house is the last house before you enter the development, which is fine. The development has placed a stop sign facing into their development. Trouble is, no one reads it. My wife's outside most of the day. She said, Leon, I've yet to see a car stop at that stop sign. So it's not a complaint. It's more of a notice. Maybe lower, the sign's great, just lower it down to more of a eyeball instead of having to look up there. And the other one is one last question. If there is a water main problem on, I'll say Kathleen Drive supplies water to your development. What happens if something does blow up on Kathleen Drive? We're not only hurting ourselves, we're hurting these folks.
Anyone else? Yes, sir?
Michael Hertz, 18 Penny Lane, Shallow Pond Estates. Regarding the whole water mains, who's responsible, so on and so forth, until we could get our roads approved, we're faced with the fact that we're responsible. And as Leon just stated, our water mains are providing water to Sawmill and Alden's Reach. And just maybe town council could opine on this. Back in 1989, 1990, Roland Larry granted easements to the 3 lots that make up the development. Those easements create a dominant and a servient estate situation where the dominant estate being Sawmill, Alden's Reach, should have responsibility for maintenance and repair of all roads that were granted access in the easements. So we'd like to see some commitment from the Sawmill Homeowners Association, Thorndike Development, and the Homeowners Association that will be created for Alden's Reach, stating that those developments have at least some responsibility for maintenance, repair of the roads. water mains, drainage systems, so on and so forth.
Okay, anything else? All right.
That's it.
Anyone else? I'm going to close public comment now and bring it back to the board. And Carolyn, if you would like to discuss any of those points?
As far as any easements? As far as any prior easements that might exist or cross easements and obligations that Thorndike, as successor to Sawmill, might have, I'd have to review those easements. I'm not going to make an opinion here based on what has been represented to me, but I do know that oftentimes there is an obligation to maintain, drainage and infrastructure within an easement. So I'm sure that's something that we could look into if necessary. As far as all of the points that were raised here tonight, I just want to remind the board that you're here really on a very limited scope. One is you're being asked here to approve a transfer from one entity to another. And embedded in that cover letter that you received from the Developers Council, there was also mention of the A&R plan, as Mr. Connor mentioned earlier, having been endorsed by the Planning Board last year, and changing lots 4, 5, and 6 to now 7, 8, and 9. So to the extent that that A&R plan needs to be incorporated into your comprehensive permit decision, that would be a modification, if you will. The transfer is not a modification. That is simply a transfer. The regulations allow for a transfer. The comprehensive permit previously said that transfers were subject to the approval of this board, because we want to know who's responsible for sticking a shovel in the ground out there. We want to know who we're dealing with. So what's before you tonight is, A, to approve that transfer. I know Mr. Connor also asked earlier about why a new entity was being created, and that is something that is pretty common in the 40B world, because one of the reasons is that the holder of a 40B permit has to be one of 3 specific types of entities. You could be a public entity like the town of Plymouth, you could be a private nonprofit, or you have to be a limited dividend corporation. So the reason they create this sole purpose LLC is to satisfy that requirement under the regulations, but also at the end of all of this, the subsidizing agency is going to go back through to make sure that they didn't yield more of a profit than they are allowed to make with respect to this project. So a sole purpose LLC makes it much easier to track those kinds of expenses. So that's one thing. As to the A&R plan, I went back through all of the prior iterations of the decisions and modifications and remands and the mediation. And there's nothing specifically stated in your decisions as far as a finding or as far as a condition that identifies lots 4, 5, and 6 as being, the lots that are somehow rather integral to the decision. It's part of the description of the premises, but the premises isn't really changing. So to the extent that you feel that for purposes of a nice a clean sort of chain of custody, if you will, to understand how do we go from Sawmill development and approving this 40B for lots 4, 5, and 6 to now Thorndike or Alden's Reach and lots 7, 8, and 9. How do we link the two? We could treat that as an insubstantial modification if the board was so inclined. Because remember, when we were last here about a modification, within 15 days, the board has to decide, do you think it is substantial or insubstantial? And if you think it is substantial, we have to let the developer know within that 15-day period, which would bring us to Wednesday. And we would also have to then go ahead and schedule a public hearing to more, in-depth discussion of that modification. But The regulations also allow the board to approve insubstantial modifications without any benefit, without the need for a public hearing. In my opinion, this type of, incorporating the A&R into the decision so that it's clear how we get from these lots to those, could be treated as an insubstantial modification.
Okay. Yes.
Is normally a revised plan submitted that changes the lot numbers?
That's what happened with the A&R,
So- So doesn't the normal process, they go submit a revised plan to the planning board to get the endorsed, and that'd be the end of it?
And they did, although this plan that is up there doesn't show the endorsement of the planning board. What was submitted has the endorsement of the planning board like last year.
So does the planning board plan that was approved have have the 7, 8, and 9 lots? on it?
Yes, it does.
So in my position, it's insubstantial.
Gentlemen? Mr. Wallace? Okay.
This is the signed, I had 2 copies. This one signed by Carl Donaldson, he's on the planning board.
Okay, good. Any other questions for board members? All right, I await a motion. Mr. Connor.
Carolyn's going to have to tell us how to make the motion.
Okay,
A motion to approve the change of name?
I would make it as a motion to approve the transfer from Sawmill Development to Alden's Reach LLC.
It's just the way I was going to say it, actually. And, okay, so I make a motion to transfer the ownership of, to Alden LLC?
Well, we're transferring just the comprehensive permit,
The
Mr. Connor.
comprehensive permit, okay. And you want to help me with the second one?
And then, if you're so inclined, to approve as a minor or as an insubstantial modification, to incorporate the planning board's endorsed A&R plan
Okay.
into the board's comprehensive permit
Okay.
decision.
And my second motion is that the planning board's A&R report of changing the numbers be entered in as, and considered an insubstantial modification by this board.
Second.
Don't ask me to repeat that.
okay. I have a motion by Mr. Connor to move, a nice motion by Mr. Connor and a second by Mr. Wallace. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Oh, I know. And I want my $1 million.
We never think we're done with this. We're never done with this.
All right. Where are we now?
Honeybee Lane, is it?
Where the hell is my schedule? Oh, there it
I think it's that. I think
All
it's
right.
this one here, right? Honeybee Lane.
Mr. Joseph, you cannot approach the bench right now. Our next business is case number 3490, Late Night LLC. And this is a condition only. Mr. D'Ambrosia, nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone. Congratulations on the reappointment, Mr. Conroy. For the record, Rob D'Ambrosia here on behalf of Late Night LLC. I've got our civil engineer, Mr. Shaw, with us, and I've also got one of the principals of the LLC, Dr. Nahill, with me tonight. Hopefully this one's short and sweet. I think it's relatively straightforward. So just to refresh your memory, if you'd want me to, this plaza, the shopping center, was originally permitted by special permit in 2000, or I think it was before 2004, modified in 2008 to be actually quite a bit larger than it is proposed today. We came back in 2023 and proposed two structures as so-called Phase 2 of this development. The vacant portion of the lot for development of the two structures, it's about 70% less than the previously approved footprint in terms of total square footage. So you guys, this board approved that proposal in principle, I guess, really the plan, so to speak, in October 2023, and that was actually under a condition of the 2008 special permit. So 2008 permit said when you want to come back for Phase 2, come back and tell the ZBA what you plan to do in terms of structure and layout and so forth, which we did, and you said that we satisfied that condition, but then you added a condition to that satisfied condition, if that makes sense. And that additional condition was captured in the 2023 October letter that I'm sure you've seen. And really the key element of that conditional approval was the petitioner shall return to the ZBA informally with architectural plans for the coffee shop retail building. So previously you guys saw the architecturals for the credit union, the last building, the second building in that Phase 2 is the coffee shop, which is going to be a Starbucks. So we have submitted architecturals to you. You've had a chance to review them. I know Denise has them available if you want to walk through them or look at them or have any questions. And then additionally, even though it wasn't a criteria of your October 2023 approval, I think you'll be pleased to know that we have received a fully satisfied letter from the DPW. I know that's something that there was some interest in last time we were here. So happy to answer any questions. Again, I've got our civil engineer here and I can do my best, but hopefully everything's in order from your standpoint.
Attorney D'Ambrosio, I'm not a real good blueprint guy. Show me a blueprint of an airplane and I might be with you. But I need Mr. Shaw to show a layman. I think I've got it marked out right, but I have concern about the drive-through for this coffee shop and where, if I understand it correctly, it merges with the bank drive-through, and then they cross across the entrance where people come into the bank. So far I don't like it.
Yeah, and I think we've tried to address the concern, but I'll let
Okay,
Mr. Shaw.
thank you.
Can I move this around?
Yes. You should be able to.
Okay.
It's kind of light. We
All
haven't turned
right.
the lights down.
This ought to be the one that we can talk about. So the drive-through for the bank goes in, takes a hard left going across in front of the Starbucks, and there are several signs in there concerning crosswalks, make sure that there's pedestrians are safe to go through that way, and there's a bypass lane that goes around the Starbucks, but what will be probably exclusively used for the Starbucks itself, because the bank itself can make the turn going the other way. There's also 4 lanes of backup that go behind the drive-throughs going forward. It's been scrutinized by both tenants very closely.
That's pretty hard to see. I mean, I could see this one better,
Yeah.
but
I can try to zoom in.
I
Well,
can't
matter of
do much
fact, I
with
think
that.
there may even be a bigger one.
So what's the queuing on that?
Well,
I
for the
mean,
bank,
how many cars?
for the bank itself, there's probably 10.
I'm not bank,
Okay.
just the
For
coffee.
Starbucks, we actually can do almost 20 or 30 because
Well,
it
that's what we
backs
had
up.
at Dunkin' Donuts on
Yeah,
Route
yeah,
44.
exactly,
And if I get annoyed in line, I've got an escape,
exactly.
and the escape is not marked. It's just, I can just slip over there and get out of line.
Right, because what happens is that the window itself is near the building, so when you get in line.
One window.
Yep, when you get in line for Starbucks, it's closest to the building. Everything else is bypass going around the outside. So if you get stuck, you can go around and out.
Okay, so I'm with you there. Now, okay, so now tell me, tell us, please. So you come around, it looks like a racetrack to me, but you come around the corner, and you're now joining the I've got a friend of mine at the bank at the same time,
Yep.
and he's exiting, so we're racing for the same spot?
No.
Is that it?
When you come out of the bank, they're going to take a left and go out back out to Long Pond Road. And they're queuing behind the window on the bank, and I wish I had, and I didn't bring one, but that's okay. So the queue on the bank is completely separate from the one for the Starbucks. The Starbucks queue is closest to actually Holman Road and the other development, and it runs back. And you can notice in there, there's a little area there where they've got the queue starting, and they're telling you that it starts here and goes around. So they've worked this out so that you can bypass if you get stuck in line. There's a couple of ways to get out, and once you get into the queue for Starbucks, there's a bypass that goes all the way around and out.
So when they come out of that, I've got my coffee, I come out, I'm going by those parking spaces
Yep.
and
you're-
out through that
Yep.
entryway,
Yep,
and then I'm making a hard right turn
to go
get
back out onto Long Pond Road.
So you said, I guess you just told me that that isn't the escape route for the bank right there.
No, it's not. The
Okay.
escape route for the bank is in front of Starbucks. Goes to the left
Yeah,
and out.
I see.
Okay. Okay,
So,
still a racetrack.
the folks who are coming in the queue for Starbucks go in between Starbucks and the bank.
Yes,
And the folks who are coming out of the drive-through are coming up and taking a left.
that's right.
Okay, thank you.
And actually, the concern that you're talking about was hashed out with the bank and Starbucks at length. They had the same issue, and they've worked all that
Yeah.
detail out. I've looked at it, and it appears to work okay.
Well, between the those two buildings and the other little strip mall, that's an interesting little intersection coming out of there.
It is, and there is work being done to be sure that
Yeah,
all
I
of
mean, I
those
go to
things are taken
Quest
care of.
now and then in there. Is it Quest, the people that do your drug testing and stuff? And
Yep.
when I come out, be careful, there's somebody coming from Wendy's there and everything, you know, geez. All I'm trying to do is get in line at the light, you know?
And those concerns have been talked over quite a bit with the DPW, as you can imagine, so they're working on it.
Thank you.
Yeah, Bill, if you don't show the Wendy's there, but I'm assuming it's obviously on this side, and the traffic coming through and around,
Yeah, so the Wendy's is
expand on that a
actually-
little bit.
Yeah, the Wendy's is that building that's to the far left of the screen. You see a little island in there, and the Wendy's drive-through is right there, and it has its own bypass.
Right.
And it goes out to the main parking area and then takes a turn and leaves, as opposed to what it does today, which is you go into Wendy's and then you take a wide sweep to go out and come around to the back end. When this is complete, you will go out to a stop sign and then take a hard right to go ahead out and then a left.
What's the situation on all of the parking in that entire piece?
Well, actually, it turns out we have extra now. I mean, we originally designed the whole thing for a 15,000 square foot retail space here. Now we're only 4,000. And of course, the Starbucks is a seating capacity issue, so that increased it a little, but not, I mean, I think I have 20 spaces to spend here if I had to.
Thank you. 20 total or just for Starbucks?
Oh, 20 extra spaces
20
after you
extra.
get
Oh,
everything
really?
you guys
Yeah.
are looking for,
Okay.
right?
That's unusual. No one usually comes with
No, I agree.
Yeah.
Ed? All right. Well, this is a condition. There's no audience participation, and I await the pleasure of the board. Mr. Connor. Hey,
You're on a roll.
I'm not a professor. That's what you get when you become an aeronautical engineer.
still say it looks like a racetrack. Okay, I make a motion that we consider condition number 5 on ZBA case 3490 as approved, completed. Completed?
Satisfied?
Satisfied.
Second
Got to get
that.
the legal
Okay.
term right.
All those in favor?
Who's the second?
Kevin?
Kevin?
Okay. It's unanimous. Rob, you're all set.
Thank you very much.
All right. The Jordan, our next case is case number 4115, Jordan Health Systems, Inc.
Can I ask one question?
Yes.
That building hasn't started yet.
The Jordan expansion?
No, the coffee, I can't get a coffee tomorrow.
No, not
Is it
yet.
gonna, they intend to start it pretty soon, I imagine? I mean, I see they've got the roadway made all around.
Yeah,
and everything.
I should ask Doc. I
That's
think-
okay, that's okay,
I
just
think-
curious.
Yeah, I think you got a few months.
Are you doing Jordan?
I am.
All right. Have at it. Tell
Okay.
us what you got.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Again, for the record, Rob D'Ambroso, D'Ambroso Law here in Plymouth. I'm here on behalf of Beth Israel Deaconess and the Jordan Health Systems, Inc. Similar to the last matter that was presented to you informally, we are also seeking your vote to acknowledge that we've satisfied an outstanding condition from the special permit that was issued in March of this year. So you probably recall that in March, we made a presentation relative to the expansion and reconfiguration of the emergency department. You had, there were two conditions that we're seeking to satisfy tonight that came out of that approval. Prior to a zoning permit, we're to return here informally to show that we've addressed the DPW comments and that we've revised the parking plan to provide for 10-foot parking spaces. As you might recall, we had originally proposed narrower spaces so we could get more of them, and that did not please the board. So we're back here with full-size spaces, and I trust you've seen those plans, but I've got Mark Tarleton, the Senior Director of Facilities, with me, and I can certainly speak to that if you have any questions about the way that those spaces are configured now. And you also should have received a DPW letter dated June 4th showing all comments satisfied or to be satisfied at a future time, such as prior to occupancy. So I believe we've satisfied those two conditions, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
So the end result was you lost a few spaces, right, to make those bigger?
I think three
You lost
spaces.
two.
Yeah.
Oh, only
Three?
three? Because I think we were talking about 5 or 6.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah, I think
Okay.
there was maybe 30 spaces, and we lost a foot on each,
Okay.
a couple feet on each.
Okay. Boy, is that hard to read. Well, okay, thanks.
Mr. Waller? I'm good with everything. Mr. Connor?
Do you want me to do it this time?
Yeah,
And
there
you
you
can
go.
second it?
I don't want Rob to think I'm easy.
I will make a motion to acknowledge that conditions 4A and 4B have been satisfied in case number 4115.
Is there a second? Mr. Connor?
I'll second. Yeah, thank you very much.
I have a motion by Mr. O'Reilly and a second by Mr. Conroy to approve case number, what is it? 4115, conditions for A and B. Any discussion? All those in favor? It is unanimous.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. We are going to now do Susan McNeary Trust, 8 Honeybee Lane, to address condition number 2.
Good evening. Mark Flaherty, representing Susan McInerney, who has property at 8 Honeybee Lane. I don't know if Peter was there. I think Phil Riccardi was on that last hearing. If the special permit was issued in March of this year with the condition that we come back to this board informally to talk about how we move the drainage off the paper street, and we've done so, and we have the drainage at the top of the lot, at the base of the triangle, and we have another rain garden at the peak or on the lower section. The issue was that we needed to take those areas, any areas that went onto the paper street. This board wanted them removed and to resize the drainage, and that's what we did for the water that's coming onto the property on the north side there. So we feel that the issue of the drainage should be satisfied to the, and the board should look at it favorably. And we did what we were asked to do, and we're looking for acknowledgement that condition number 2 of the special permit be satisfied. Thank you.
Gentlemen.
They're sealed.
Hmm?
You said you don't need me.
Yeah, but we might like to include you.
I don't know anything about this, do I? Was I here?
Hi,
I
Thomas.
wasn't here.
If memory serves, we had a lot of issues in terms of where that runoff water was going to go, and also what the source of that water was coming from another. We talk about the same case, I believe.
Yes, that's correct.
And where that water was, the source of it was coming from another neighbor's, and we had some issues in terms of flowing into the street, and so.
Yeah, right.
In layman's terms, tell me what the solution was.
So the solution
I've got the
was
plans here,
to, we had one rain garden at the bottom of the lot. That rain garden was sized enough that it went onto the paper street. The building inspector was here, and there was some discussion about, is that allowed for the drainage to extend onto the paper street? And it was thought best by this board that it would be best if we can eliminate the rain garden extending over into the paper street, and could we find another space that Mr. Riccardi indicated, and I agreed with him, at the top for the water that's coming down from the north side, if we can intercept that. So between the two, now we added an additional rain garden to take care of it. And so that was our solution, Thomas.
So in your professional opinion, you think that has solved the problem?
Yes.
Thank you.
I thought I seem to remember that, but I wasn't on it. Was it continued once before?
No.
I remember Phil talking about that, I
Yeah.
guess.
You're in front of us, this is the third time I think you've been in front of us. The first time it was continued, the second time we made a decision subject to this condition, and now they're back satisfying the condition.
Okay, so that's why, it's a triangular
Yeah,
lot.
right.
and the
Yes.
Phil
Yeah.
wanted.
Down in
that-
Manamat.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. Well, it's just a condition. I await a motion.
Do you give 30-year guarantees with this runoff, or what?
Susan will do that.
Foster, I'll make a motion that we approve this condition, that condition number 2 has been satisfied.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Conroy to approve condition number 2, and a second by Mr. Wallace. All those in favor?
So,
All righty,
Thank you very much.
all set,
Okay.
Mr. Flaherty. Now, our last one for the evening, case number 4128. You can stay there.
Let's just put this one off for a week.
M3 Ventures Incorporated, to address condition number 3. I hope you do a much better job.
Beautiful picture.
Wasn't me. It wasn't me.
Zing.
Well, good evening,
Beautiful
Mr.
picture.
Chairman and members, and thank you for moving me to the top of the list tonight. I appreciate that very much. Always a pleasure to be here, especially last case of the
You're
evening.
not making progress here.
I don't care at this point, Mr. Chairman. I think we're pretty good. Anyway, as to the quality of my last presentation, I don't think you can really point the finger directly at me, but it was not the best, okay? We did have some, we did have some questions on angles and
North and south.
north, south, east, west, okay? Yeah, we did have a couple of questions on that my team was not able to answer, but tonight we will, so, or I will, because I'm solo tonight. Anyway,
Are the rest of them too embarrassed to come back?
pretty much, yeah.
Go right ahead, Mr. Shaw.
We are here for the condition number 3, I believe, on the decision by the board, which was to qualify the signage direction and location. And I think, Denise, well, you've got it all in my packet anyway, and Denise has it on the big screen if we need to. So I think it was Mr. Wallace, Chairman Maine, and Mr. Conroy that were here. I think we had, was it Mr. Ricciardi? Was Phil here? I forget who it was, but we only had 4, so we had to go supermajority. I don't know who it was, but anyway, we've got 3 people here to review this one condition, so I think we're okay.
I have Mr. Maine, Mr. Conroy, Mr. Leary, Mr. Wallace, but I think you only need.
Do we need, do we need anybody else on a informal? I don't think so. I think all we need is...
Mr. Sims,
Yes, sir.
present your case. I'll worry about what we need.
Pretty simple, Mr. Chairman. What you have in front of you are the photos, pics, renderings, the best we could do to show you the signage from both north and south on Route 3, which I think was the only real question that the board had last time. So if you look at what has been presented to you in your packet, you'll see a pretty good rendition of what we could do. So you can at least see exactly where they are in the building and what they look like coming north on 3 and going south on 3. I think south on 3 was not the concern of the board last time, but we didn't have a real good angle or depiction of, the northbound traffic on 3. But what you have in front of you should pretty much show you what it looks like. Just don't ask me too many detailed questions.
Nicest pictures we've ever seen.
Thank you, Mr.
Honest to
Conroy.
God.
They are.
Hey, if you ever want to give up lawyering,
You know what? I'm about to take credit for that work, but I think my client might get a little upset if I say, yeah, it's all me tonight. But in any event, yes, that's probably the best we can do, and I think it should help you guys out in terms of determining exactly what, not exactly, but approximately what it will look like, so.
did you get a compass to go and take these?
We had a surveyor out there with a transit, actually, and we had, I was going to use the drone photos. I said it's a little much. I don't think we need all that, but if you're going to continue me again, I will get the drone photos and the surveyor out there.
No. He does aerial
I know he
photography.
does, but I can't hire him on this project unless he recuses himself from the decision on this board. So.
He's not on the case.
I know.
How
Well,
much do you charge?
No, he wasn't on the original decision, but he could. All right, I'm done.
Okay, the frivolity is passed. Any questions?
I can make a motion if you want.
Please.
So make a motion that in relation to condition 3, that the petitioner is satisfied.
All those in favor? Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. I have a motion by Mr. Conroy and a second by Mr. Wallace to approve condition number
3.
Condition 3 on case number 4128, M3 Ventures.
There's 3 votes?
Yes.
And that works?
Yes.
It's a majority.
And all those in favor? Okay, you got it. It's only 3 votes for a condition.
Thank you.
The only thing you need a supermajority for is the decision itself.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate that. And thank you for not torturing me.
And I will never miss an opportunity to.
I know you won't.
See you, Bill.
See you later, Bill. Having no other, oh yes, we have minutes. That's, I don't know where I put them.
You want them?
No,
May 6th?
May 6, May 20.
okay.
Can I just offer?
I read them both. Go right ahead.
Correction?
Yes.
What's the correction? C-O-N-N-E-R.
I spell it wrong all the time just to piss them off.
I think my kids do, probably, too.
You mean it's not an OR?
No,
I never knew.
never has been.
I never knew that.
No.
Any other additions, subtractions, corrections?
See ya.
Do we ever see his boss anymore? No.
I don't even know who he is.
Spencer Dowcause or something.
They look fine to me. Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
With corrections, I meant, you know.
Okay. And what's the?
2 more.
20th? May 20th, I read them at home.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from May 20.
Okay, by Mayhem.
Is there a second?
Well, and we got the old spelling mistake again, but we'll get, I could show her a license, that might help. On my VA identification,
Checking account.
global entry account.
Checking account, you know?
As corrected.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Motion as corrected.
Okay.
I'm good with that.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Yep.
That's good. But that concludes.
No, June 3rd. One more set.
Oh, one more?
Yeah,
Which, June?
June
The
3rd.
3rd. Yes.
June 3rd?
I'm up to date.
Oh, there's that OR again. Yeah, you have been spelling it correctly. You must have looked at it old.
My vacation did me out of this.
They're fine to me. I looked at them. I see nothing wrong.
I await a motion.
I'll move to accept the minutes of June 3rd as corrected.
Yep, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Now, that concludes the business for this evening.
That's pretty good, a little over an hour.